Thanks for joining us for another Landlord Tales. Shorter episodes, quick-hitting investor advice. Stick with us.
We thought, having tenants was going to be a piece of cake because they would simply rent the property, take wonderful care of it, and send us the rent all the time. We learned about inspections. We learned about being a true property manager, being a professional, not being a friend, and running your business like a business.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odom and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odom, along with Steven Silverman. Steven, we love... let's back up. Hello, how are you doing?
Eric, much better for hearing you, Eric.
All right.
Market's been pretty active, and I know you've been working on some interesting things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, we had a development project that we did here in Tampa, and it's been quite a while, but it looks like we're locked up a good tenant and a good long-term tenant, and those are the best kind. And hopefully we get the lease executed here in the next couple of weeks, but we've come to agreement on terms, and hopefully haven't jinxed it. And we can get this done and get it wrapped up and off my plate and put it in the performing asset category.
Well, ultimately, it's the quality of the tenant, and that's what you were really searching for. And the quality of the tenant is what increases the performance and the worth, the value of the asset.
No doubt about it. We love our local hairdressers and nail salons. They're terrific. They're the backbone of a lot of our retail centers, but they don't necessarily increase the value of the property. The ones that do are those large, regional, credited national tenants. Those are the ones that really make the asset hum from an investment standpoint. So that's the case in this particular instance, and we're happy to try to get to wrap that property up. I wanted to thank Parker for leaving a review on the show. He says, great topics, entertaining delivery. Every real estate investor needs advice at some point in their career. These guys provide it, and you don't get bored listening. Great topics, great guests, great host. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Parker. Guys, listeners, if you have not had the opportunity to leave a review for us, we certainly would appreciate if you did. This does help us to attract more guests. Right, Stephen?
And great guests make great shows.
Yeah. And the guests or potential guests will go and look to see our reviews, and they'll see who's listening. And if you guys are leaving reviews, it definitely helps us out. So, Parker, appreciate you taking the time to leave the review. Stephen, we've got a Landlord Tales today.
Yeah, Landlord Tales are just shorter podcasts where we ask landlords what they've learned out of particular experiences, some really visible learning experiences that taught them a lifelong lesson, and that we can hear how they benefited from that lesson.
Yeah, investors and landlords. I mean, we want to get quick takes on things that might have been instrumental in how their careers were impacted. And so that's really the point of it. So, Stephen, is there anything else we want to talk about before we get rolling into our guest?
Let's roll right into it. Today we have with us Augie Byllott, who is the founder and president of Creating Wealth USA. Augie is a seasoned and active investor in real estate. He has built his business over 20 to 30 years, and over that time, I'm sure he's seen his share of mistakes. Today is our episode of Landlord Tales, and we're looking forward to learning from Augie a pivotal moment that he might have had that helped his learning experience as an investor. Augie, welcome to the Invest Florida show.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's good to be here.
Now, Augie, appreciate you investing the time with us today. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you got started in real estate and what made you determined to get in, and why single family and that sort of thing?
Sure, Eric. Back in the early 80s, I decided to buy a home, and I was a single guy at the time. Interest rates were 14%. And so basically, out of sheer desperation, I was living on Long Island at the time up in New York. And with rates being so high, the common practice was turn a single-family house into a two-family. And that was done by creating a basement apartment. And that's what I did. I bought a house, I closed on it, and literally within, I guess, about 45 days, I had a one-bedroom apartment in my basement, rented it out, and cut my mortgage payment in half and said, this is great, this is easy. And interestingly, a few years later, I met my wife, and she had done basically the same thing. Only she had an earlier start than I did, so she had a much better interest rate. And we each lived in our homes, and we had a tenant living in the home as well. That worked out just fine. And then, when we decided to get married, the marriage went wonderfully, but landlording went to, well, I guess you could say it went to hell in a handbasket. Because we decided to buy a home together, and we turned our two former homes into straight rental units. And managing a property when you live in it is a whole lot different than managing properties you don't live in. And we got quite a nasty education.
That was in New York, and at some point you moved to Florida?
Correct. Now, what happened was my wife and I both traveled on business. Real estate was not a full-time thing. And we thought, having tenants was going to be a piece of cake because they would simply rent the property, take wonderful care of it, and send us the rent all the time.
So you're a good landlord, in other words.
We were very ignorant at the time. We were uneducated, and we had expectations that were very unrealistic. And so we ran into lots and lots of headaches. Then we hired a property management company, but we didn't want to pay a fee to have them manage the property, just find us a tenant, which they did. And the woman who rented the place told us it was going to be her and her husband, and then her 4 adult children and spouses moved in. And she contacted us to say, why did she get the heating bill when, she thought we were supposed to be paying for the heat. And we drove by in February. Now, February in New York is different than February in Florida. And the windows were open. So it was just one catastrophe after the next. So subsequently, we sold both of those properties. And my wife said, we are never, ever going to be landlords again. So fast forward, we moved to Florida, and we got to go to a seminar through our local RIA, and we learned that there are ways to actually manage properties like being a business person. And we learned about pre-screening tenants. We learned about background checks. We learned about credit checks. We learned about inspections. We learned about being a true property manager, being a professional, not being a friend, and running your business like a business. And that made a complete 180-degree shift in what we've been able to accomplish as landlords. Running your business like a business is critically important. And if you don't take the time to become a master of your craft by having a good, solid lease, by letting tenants know these are the rules of the road. Now when we, bring in a new tenant, it typically takes an hour at least to go through everybody's rights and responsibilities. This way there were no surprises. Properties are filmed, and we always take a picture in front of the beautiful house so that everybody knows the condition of the property on the day it's being rented. So there's no arguments. We believe in 3-day notices. We believe in 7-day notices. We make sure that we're following the law of the state and that we run our business like a business, and it makes a huge difference. We get a better quality tenant and a lot fewer headaches.
So, Augie, if I had to summarize your pivotal moment in Landlord Tales, I think I can put it down to one word, and that's education.
Yeah, Steve, that would be for me, the biggest word, education.
So I mean, really, and this makes sense. I mean, real estate's one of those businesses that you can actually make money while you're learning, but it's the part of making money while you're learning is to actually invest in the learning aspect of it.
Absolutely. Just like you would invest money in maintenance of a property, or should, you got to definitely invest in yourself as well, always upgrading your skills. And it makes a huge difference because if you can avoid problems or prevent problems, it's much less costly than going out fixing problems.
Augie, where are you primarily buying your properties now?
Right now, we're in the Central Florida market, and we cover mostly Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and Polk County.
And so what's happening in these markets now? There's still good deals? Is it harder, easier? What's happening now?
Well, since we don't work through the traditional real estate channels, we don't work with agents per se to find our properties. We find that we're doing just fine. We buy a lot of our rental properties on terms, so we're looking for motivated sellers. We're looking for people, typically either probates or landlords that are looking to retire. Many times you can get good deals. Not that you're going to get a super cheap deal, but if somebody is looking to retire or reduce the amount of time they put into managing their portfolio, many times you can buy that portfolio on terms because, hey, they're cash flow investors. And if they can continue to get some form of cash flow, that usually works for them. And so, a lot of times we'll simply work with landlords who are looking to do less landlording and more relaxing or traveling, but they still want to enjoy cash flow. And so we're finding deals on a fairly regular basis. And the key is knowing how to structure different kinds of offers that will be appealing to people that are looking to sell. And a lot of times our rentals are going to be cash flow properties where we're going to share that cash flow with whoever we bought it from.
Gotcha. And so would you say that's your most target-rich environment right now, or are long-term landlords that still want the cash flow but want to get out of the trash tenants and toilets side of things?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty target-rich environment. And the other target-rich environment are probates. You've got a lot of people that inherit properties that live out of state, and they have no use or interest in the property. And many times, if you can give them a good offer, it can work out just fine. Are
you hitting and I forgot the term, I'm slipping my brain. It's not the registered agent. It's the individual that's in charge of the estate. Are you hitting them, or are you hitting the attorneys that are handling the probate?
We hit both.
You hit both. Okay.
We try to reach the heirs, but we will also deal with the executor when appropriate.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we want to try to reach out to everybody because you never know which one's going to pick up the phone and give us a call.
Yep.
So, even though it's 2 postage stamps instead of 1, it's been a pretty good investment.
Terrific. Augie, this has been fantastic. So if anybody's got a deal in the Central Florida market, can you give them sort of an overview, what you're looking for? They can give you a shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking for, basically 3 2s and 4 2s. I like block construction. I like stuff that's basically built after 1985. And, we have price points anywhere from $50,000 to probably $250,000. But we're looking at stuff that's going to, rent somewhere 1% of the purchase price is kind of our target. When I buy rental properties, I usually try to buy them with about 20% equity. It just makes sense in the event there's any fluctuation in the market. Also, if I want to pull some cash out of a property, that's usually a good way to do it. And we prefer to buy on terms. So if somebody's looking to turn their existing rentals into cash flow without the management headache, please feel free to give us a call. They can always reach us at 863-255-5858.
Awesome. Augie, we appreciate your insight today on how you buy, on the Central Florida market, your means of acquiring property. All that's been very informative. Stephen, anything else before we let Augie go?
Augie, thank you for the informative interview, and I'm sure our guests will appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
All right, buddy. Thank you. And that was Landlord Tales. Augie Byllott, Central Florida investor. Stephen, tell us what you thought.
Well, Eric, for me, frankly, every day I'm in the business, I see something I'd never seen before. And when you think you've seen it all, and there's always something new. So Augie really summarized everything, his Landlord Tales, with just one word: education. That was his pivotal point.
Right. And a lot of investors, some of them have no fear. They just go out and they execute. And there's others that they learn and learn and learn and learn and never execute. And, sometimes it helps to have a person that can give you a little bit of a push. And this can either be a mentor or somebody that you might be investing with, or it might be a coach. I mean, you might go out and hire, but whatever it takes, and everybody's different, whatever it takes for you to move from step A to step B, you need to be honest with yourself. And, Augie obviously talks about the fact that the education and of course, the coaching and whatnot could be valuable tools in the investor's pocket, particularly to get them off the sidelines and onto the playing field. Stephen, anything else before we let our listeners go?
Well, we want to remind our listeners that we have lots of episodes, very educational. Just go to our website, the Invest Florida Show, and you can access the archives. Also, don't forget to download the apps on your mobile devices and listen while you're mobile.
Guys, as always, we appreciate the time you invest with us. Hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odom and Steven Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida Show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida Show.